Welcome to The Explainer. So, today, we're embarking on a genuinely fascinating journey to decode the absolute heart of Indian classical music. Look, whether you're a seasoned listener who totally gets lost in a midday raga, or you're someone completely new to these ancient sounds, this chapter of our musical exploration is honestly going to change the way you hear everything. We're going to break down both the sheer mathematical brilliance and the deep emotional building blocks that make up the Carnatic and Hindustani traditions. So let's dive right in and uncover the math and the magic.
Okay, here's our quick roadmap for the chapter. First, the roots of classical music, then Carnatic music's 7 talas, followed by singing a Swarajati, Hindustani music and time, and finally, keeping the Hindustani beat.
All right. Section 1, Roots of Classical Music, from ancient chants to the 7 notes. You know, long before the North and South even developed their own distinct styles, there was this universal starting point that anchored the entire Indian musical system. To understand just how incredibly deep these roots go, you have to hear this excerpt from the ancient Natya Shastra text. It reads, "The 7 notes practiced during the times of Natya Shastra are as follows: Sadaj, Rishab, Gandhar, Madhyam, Pancham, Daivat, and Nishad." I mean, that is just astonishing, right? It shows us that these specific, explicitly named notes were formalized and practiced literally thousands of years ago in Indian history. It's basically the ancient DNA of the music we still hear today. But wait, where did those 7 notes even come from in the first place? Let's trace it back one step further. The incredibly complex classical music we listen to today actually evolved directly from the ritual chanting of the Samaveda. See, initially, the Vedas were chanted using just 3 basic vocal tones. You had Uddata, which is a normal or medium tone, Anudatta, a lower note, and Svarita, a raised or higher pitch, just 3 tones. And from those 3 fundamental human expressions of high, medium, and low, the whole system gradually blossomed into the rich Saptaswara, those 7 notes we just talked about. It's this beautiful organic evolution from simple ritual chanting to a vast, intricate musical vocabulary.
Moving right along to Section 2, Carnatic music's 7 talas, counting the southern beats.
So, now that we have our notes, how do we actually organize them in time? Well, down in the southern tradition, which is Carnatic music, time is cyclical, and it's governed by what we call talas. Specifically, there are 7 main talas that act as the foundational rhythm cycles for all compositions. You've got Dhruva, Matya, Rupaka, Jampa, Triputa, Atta, and Eka. In fact, if you want to build vocal strength and really grasp rhythm in the South, you practice these exercises called alankaras, which are built entirely on these 7 pillars. Now here is actually my favorite part. How do musicians physically keep track of these crazy complex rhythms? They don't just, feel the groove, they are physically calculating it with their hands using 3 main parts called angas. First up is the lagu, which is a clap followed by counting on your fingers. Then comes the drutam, which is a clap and then a wave of the hand. And finally, the anutrutam, which is simply a single beat or clap. So the next time you're watching a Carnatic concert and you see the performers or even the audience doing these intricate hand gestures, they aren't just tapping along. They are literally calculating the math of the music in real time.
Section 3, Singing a Swarajati, combining voice and verse. Okay, let's pivot away from pure rhythm for a second to see how vocals fit into all this math. This brings us to the Swarajati. A Swarajati is a very, very old musical form in Carnatic music. It's basically made up of the swaras, or the notes, and sometimes these really beautiful lyrics. You could think of it as a core building block for vocalists. It's essentially a training ground, a way to master both the flowing melody of the notes and the strict mathematical cycle of the tala, all at exactly the same time.
And like pretty much everything in this tradition, a Swarajati is impeccably structured. It usually breaks down into 3 distinct parts. First is the Pallavi, which acts as the refrain or chorus. Second is the Anupallavi, a smaller section that kicks in immediately after the refrain. And finally, the Charanam, which consists of 1 or more verses. To give you an idea, our source chapter highlights a super famous composition called Ra Ra Venu. It's set in Aditala, which is an 8-beat cycle, and it follows this exact 3-part architecture to the letter. And hey, I want to emphasize that this isn't just ancient history confined to textbooks, right? Modern Carnatic vocalists, like the amazing Aruna Seram, bring this mathematically rigorous practice to life every single day. They're constantly connecting these centuries-old structures with deeply moving, entirely contemporary performances.
Shifting gears now to Section 4, Hindustani Music and Time, the Samay Chakra.
So, we are heading north now to explore Hindustani music, and this is where the focus shifts heavily toward profound emotional resonance. The absolutely crucial point here is the number 12. The entire Hindustani music system is built on an expanded palette of 12 notes. You have your 7 pure or shuddha notes, plus 4 komal or flat notes, and 1 tivra, which is a sharp note. Think of these 12 notes as the colors on a painter's palette, just waiting to be mixed to create very specific moods. But how do they decide which colors to use and when? Enter the Samay chakra. This is the time theory of Hindustani ragas, and it is endlessly fascinating. It essentially dictates that classical music is a dharhor, a treasure, where specific patterns of notes are meant to be sung at particular times of the day. The core belief is that a pattern of notes sounds most effective and truly expresses its deepest emotion only when it perfectly aligns with the natural clock of the earth. It's like having a soundtrack that shifts with the rotation of the planet.
Let me give you an example that brilliantly illustrates the Samay chakra in action. Take Raga Bhairav. It is specifically a morning raga. Its notes are intentionally chosen to evoke the stillness and the slow awakening of the dawn. On the flip side, Raga Yaman is generally sung in the evening, capturing that entirely different shifting mood as day slowly turns to dusk. The music is literally designed to physically match the environment around you.
In fact, this connection to mood and atmosphere is so strong, it actually inspired an entire genre of visual art. Ragamala paintings were created specifically to depict the precise emotional mood of a given raga. It just goes to show that these ragas aren't merely auditory experiences. They are deeply visual, deeply emotional landscapes passed down through generations.
And for our final stop, Section 5. Keeping the Hindustani beat, the math of the tabla. Okay, so we've talked about the emotional, sweeping melodies of the North, but how is rhythm handled? Well, the incredibly complex, lightning-fast audio of the tabla can actually be broken down into structured, digestible math. Take a look at Jabtala, which is built on a 10-beat cycle, or matras, or Rupak, which operates on a 7-beat cycle. And I want you to notice the bowls. These are syllables like ti, na, di, na. Musicians literally vocalize these syllables to practice and communicate the exact rhythmic patterns before their hands ever even touch the drum skins. It is an absolutely incredible system of spoken mathematics.
And just to be super clear, this isn't some dusty, forgotten art form. The tabla's reach today is truly global. As our source points out, masters of this instrument have taken these exact traditional rhythms from classical Hindustani stages all the way to massive international arenas. Through pioneering world music bands like Shakti, they've collaborated across all kinds of genres, secured the highest honors from the government of India, and, even won multiple Grammy Awards. So the math works and the magic definitely resonates worldwide.
So I want to leave you with this thought as we wrap up this explainer. We've traced this incredible journey together, from ancient 3-note Vedic chants to the intricate finger counting of Carnatic talas, all the way to the time-sensitive emotions of Hindustani ragas. The next time you put on your headphones to listen to your favorite song, I challenge you to listen just a little bit closer. Can you hear the hidden structural math? Can you feel the time-bound magic working behind the melody? Because I promise you, once you understand the architecture, the music never sounds the same again. Thanks so much for exploring this with me.